Hello and welcome. We are in conversation today with Dr. Ulrich Spiesshofer, CEO of the $51 billion Swiss power and automation company, ABB. Thanks a lot, Dr. Spiesshofer, for speaking with CNBC TV 18. Let me begin by asking you about the entire, talk about the emerging markets being the next driver of growth. I was seeing your strategy paper that you've put out, and you said the next set of drivers would come in from countries in Asia, Middle East, and Africa. Where is this optimism coming from? There have been a lot of issues in the emerging markets that we've seen in the last 3 to 4 years. But why do you say that they will be your next driver of growth?
ABB is a leader in power and in automation. And if you look at the emerging market story over the next years, we are ideally positioned to serve the emerging markets in the next phase of growth. The demands on infrastructure are going up rapidly. The demands on automation and competitiveness in the emerging markets are going up. So we are working very closely with local governments and with the relevant regions to have the right offering in place. On the infrastructure side, the power infrastructure needs are huge in India, but also in the other parts of the emerging markets. On the automation side, the requirements on quality, on efficiency and energy efficiency are going up every day. And ABB is a strong partner since many years. We are in most of these countries since more than 100 years, so we are well positioned.
So it's the consumption story that you're banking on?
It's a consumption story on the one hand, and it's a competitive story on the other hand, because the emerging countries are more and more getting into competition with each other, and automation and power efficiency will be a key differentiator for competitiveness.
In that space, how do you look at India? You know, in the last couple of months, especially with the new government coming in, every company CEO that we speak to says 2 words, upbeat and bullish on India. How do you look at the growth chart in India, especially now with the new government in place?
If you look at the underlying dynamics over the next long-term period, India will grow, there's no doubt about it. The basic ingredients are there. There's a very strong education system. There's a growing workforce out there. There are strongly motivated people on the one hand. There's an industrial demand which is growing. The new government has given confidence back to the business. Since I arrived here in India earlier this week, I met many of our customers, and I can sense a certain improvement in sentiment, in optimism. So I think the willingness is there, the openness is there. Now we need to see the action.
For the sectors that you operate in, power and automation, at least in the last 4 years or so, we've seen those sectors really struggle in the Indian market as far as policies were concerned, as far as orders were concerned. Do you see things actually now improving on ground with the policy and the optimism that you're talking about from the new government?
I see dynamics on both sides of our business, on the power side and the automation side. On the power side, there's a big shift in the electrical value chain in India. On the generation side, there's a commitment to do more renewable power, to become less dependent of oil imports, to become more clean in terms of the power generation. So that's one driver that we benefit from. That means this power needs to be transported over longer distances. And we have just announced great new technology that is developed here in India, like the 1200 kV breaker that we just installed here, that allows us to uniquely play in the long distance, high efficiency, low loss power transmission business. If you look then locally, there are about 300 million people in this country that don't have access to electricity. Now we can do that either way. We can either connect it to conventional grid with these people, or put in microgrid solutions developed here in India, like our solar pump for irrigation system, really put that here in to get people some supply. So there is an underlying good growth dynamic. If I look at the amount of investments, the 150 gigawatt of additional power generation that will come in until 2022 in the next couple of years. So I'm optimistic about that, and I see good actions from the government coming. On the automation side, the strong focus on energy efficiency is one that we can really help in. If you look at the first sector in India, agriculture consumes about 10 times the energy on a relative basis as in other parts. So we can contribute there. In the secondary sector, around the classic industry and value add, there is a growing confidence in business, and we will see investments there. The customers that I met this week are very confident about that. And then last but not least, on the services sector, I see an uptake there as well. So altogether, a growing sentiment, more positive attitude, and the actions will come, I'm for sure.
which are the policies rather with a change in that you feel all of this will actually come on ground? You know, we're talking about a lot of positives that could come in opportunities, but for them to actually come on ground, which are the certain policies which you think really need to change at this point in time?
Let me give you a couple of examples. The Make in India policy, where it's really a strong requirement to set up industrial value chains, even stronger than the country has done so far, will accelerate growth and create jobs and create prosperity. So I think that's a good one. ABB has been in the country since more than 100 years. We are manufacturing since more than 50 years. We got many sites here that we now plan to invest. In fact, yesterday we inaugurated a new plant and 2 more. So the Make in India and the value chain here in India will be a key element. The easing off of export policy and making it possible to export easier from India is another element. The changes that we see and the legislation that's being put in place on the renewable energy side is another piece. So altogether, I think there are some really good pieces of the future jigsaw puzzle of the prospering India that will help to get this country to the next level of better quality growth.
Especially, you know, you spoke about 2-3 things. One was on the power side, one was on the renewable energy side, and one was on the output efficiency in the power grids, and also in the Make in India. Let me get to it one by one. When you talk about the power sector, with whatever optimism you've spoken about and the policy moves that you've spoken about, have you seen on the ground movement in terms of order pickup? Have you seen that translate into order pickups? I understand ABB, one of the late cycle, will see the late cycle recovery because which is how you're placed in the entire value chain. But at least in terms of a pickup, which are the sectors where you're seeing a pickup, and have you actually seen a pickup?
Yeah. Look, it is too early to celebrate a huge growth on orders, but what we see is a significant increase in tender discussions, where people really say, we want to invest stronger on the power infrastructure side. If you look at the 150 gigawatts that are planned in addition until 22, half of that is at the moment already being considered in concrete projects. So in these concrete projects, we have discussions with our customers to say not only how can we support the establishment of the power generation capacity, but also how can we support the transport of the new capacity to the points of consumption. The second half of this 150 gigawatt in addition that are coming is not yet planned. So this is a long-term game where we're working together with the key players in the industry to get this going. So tender activity coming up, long-term project development needs coming, and the orders will then come also accordingly with that.
So what is the timeline that you are projecting for your company to actually see a pickup in these orders and them translating into formal orders for you?
We don't give forward-looking guidance, as you know, as a stock-listed entity. We need to be careful on that one. I give you a more general answer on that one. Over the course of the next 24 to 36 months, you will see significant projects kicking in. We are optimistic that our orders growth in the field of infrastructure will go in line with that development.
And if we talk about some bit of quantifiable opportunities that are in store for you from this 50 gigahertz that you're talking about in terms of translating into orders, let's say in the next 3 to 4 or 5 years timeline, what is the opportunity that's viable, and if you can quantify that?
Our ambition is to grow ahead of GDP in any market that we are in as ABB. That ambition we have also here in India. If you look at the investments in infrastructure will outgrow the GDP growth. You need to lead with infrastructure development if you want to grow a country like India. We are strongly committed to take a share of that additional growth, and we want to beat our competition. How do we do that? We have invested very strongly into local R&D. We got now about more than 4,000 people in engineering and R&D combined here locally in India, and that's a wonderful full workforce. So with that investment going forward in the future, with a strong local team that understands the local requirements, with working together with our customers on the key projects, I'm confident that we will participate in a prospering way also for ABB.
With the new government, we've spoken about the optimism, we've spoken about the policies that could change, and you're saying in the next 24 to 36 months you could see a lot of these tendering actually translate into some orders. Are you reworking your targets in terms of growth for the Indian market from here on as you have a very optimistic view for the next, let's say, 5 years from here. What sort of growth are you targeting? Growing more than GDP is what you've said, but if you could quantify it and if you're reworking your targets.
If you look at the purpose of this visit, the purpose of this visit is to get together with customers, to meet some politicians, but also work with the team and understand what is the right ambition level to address the opportunities in a country like India. India will get back the growth rate. There will be strong investments in infrastructure and in automation side. Our global ambition is to grow revenue in a significant way between 4 and 7%. The ambition here locally in India is ahead of that. It's even stronger because we believe the underlying dynamics are good. So it will be probably much more on the upper end of the range of growth for the years to come.
If we talk about the order inflows, especially in the power side, a lot of it would be pushed by the orderings from the Power Grid Corporation of India. How is the order scenario and order placement from Power Grid look like? Some of the orders that they've placed in the last couple of quarters, they've actually not progressed from the tendering process. If you could, run us through what's the status update on that.
Look, for me, the one big expectation that I have towards the new government here in India is to get predictable, clear guidelines to business and to decision makers on the utility side, and to enhance and accelerate the decision process. As you rightly say, there's a lot of tender discussion. We need to make sure this tender discussion is being put into the project in realization that the people in India benefit from the growth in industry, in growth in infrastructure. Short term, we see the need for some clear instructions, for some clear guidelines and priorities in terms of investments. We also see a need for support on some open questions. The land right question that you have with every large infrastructure project is an important one, and we see some acceleration in that field. So altogether, the framing conditions to take a tender into realization, to make sure all the permits, the land rights, the execution enablers are all set up. I have high hopes with the new government that this will accelerate and become much better.
Could you quantify to us in terms of what's the order book right now for ABB in India, and what percentage growth do you anticipate in the next 2 to 3 years' time that you would see, especially from the Power Grid? And if you could highlight what would be the contribution from Power Grid?
For competitive reasons, we are not disclosing all the details that you just asked for, but I can give you a directional answer. Our order book has grown in the last couple of quarters coming in. I think the order book will further grow with the tender activity that we see now going forward. There will be an acceleration now coming in. Now what we need to understand in a business like ABB, the tenders and the orders for infrastructure are very long-term projects. Some of these projects might go up to 8 years. So what I would expect, the orders are coming in, and the revenue are then dragging behind it in a good way over the next years to come.
No, why I asked you was because in the last couple of quarters we've seen the order inflows actually decline. If we talk about the quarterly performance in the last 3 to 4 quarters, and because you're not starting on a good order book base, obviously your execution cycle would also be tapering towards the end of the year, and which is what I want to understand. From order inflow versus execution and eventually translating into numbers for ABB, what's the cycle, and if you could quantify that to some extent for us?
If you take the order book situation in India, we have not only a business on the power side, we also have a business on the automation side in some of the process industries, and we have seen a significant slowdown in some parts of that sector, and that has naturally gone through a certain slowdown. We had some very strong years. Then it got a little bit softer, so the comparable orders went down, and now they're picking up again. In terms of the quantification of that one, we are not giving the forward-looking guidance, as I said before, but if you take the GDP growth of about 5 to 6% that is expected, if you take the capex growth in the infrastructure side, which will be ahead of that, we will be at a multiple of the GDP growth in the years to come in terms of the order pickup.
That was to talk about the orders. If we talk about, from the power sector's perspective, the output efficiency. You are on the output side of the power business, not really in the power generation. A lot of push, especially from the recent, the new power minister has been on the power generation side to get the coal deallocations done, so the coal is available and the power generation can push. Do you think, with your experience on the output side, as a country we are efficient in managing the output that we have in terms of grids that we have, in terms of stability and the transmission that we work? Do you think we are efficient on that front, and are there changes in terms of policies or how the government looks at that side of power, which is more consumer driven? Do you think that's required?
Every emerging economy like India goes through different phases on productivity and efficiency. If I look back 20 years, 30 years, India has made some good progress, but it's not at world class yet. So what does it take to really get to world class? There are too many losses in transmission and distribution. Our locally developed technology will really help to cut the losses on the transmission and distribution side and make sure more of the energy that's being, or electricity that's being produced, arrives at the point of consumption. The second point is, if we look at the points of consumption in India, in the primary sector and agriculture, when we look at irrigation systems, for example, in India, today they use a lot of the electricity. In fact, about 20% of the electricity that's being produced in India goes into the agricultural sector. In other countries, it's only 2%. So putting in there new solution is an opportunity for us. Our recently launched solar pump system, where you have a solar pump, a solar panel directly connected with a pump, allows us to have much more efficient irrigation systems than we have today in India. If you look on the industrial side, the installed base of motors consumes more than half of the electricity that's being generated in India. And a lot of these motors are not very energy efficient. We need to put more energy efficient motors and drives in there, and we can cut consumption by up to 60 points. So for me, I think what we need to do on the front end side, on the generation side, support a more clean generation of the power, but on the consumption side, on the output side, really put in the already available technologies to make sure we do it in a more efficient way. So basically, if you look at the challenge that India has, we need to decouple the economic growth of India from environmental pollution. And the way we do that is we're putting in more energy efficient equipment, which uses less energy, and the energy that's still needed, and electricity is still needed, needs to be provided with more clean sources of energy, like the renewables that we're investing in heavily.
In a market like India, do you think it's more of a buyer's market? Is there overcapacity? And because while doing the research, I realized that most of the companies are actually operating in a very tough pricing environment. How do you look at a market like India when we talk about pricing? Is it really a buyer's market? Yeah.
There is no single Indian market. We need to go through the different segments that we have. And it's very clear when a country is emerging very strongly and predicts strong growth, that attracts a lot of investment. And if the investment comes in and demand is not yet there, you might have a certain supply overcapacity, and that needs to be then dealt with. ABB has taken some very, very responsible investments for the long term. So we are not nervous about the next couple of quarters outlook. We are in India since 100 years, and we are in this country for another 100 years. So we will be there to stay. We see some interesting behavior in terms of putting additional capacity in. We see some price wars out there in industry. Our purpose in life as a company is to provide value to our customers. If we have the best products, if we have the lowest loss energy efficient solutions, the customers are also in difficult times ready to pay a price. So what we need to do is we need to continue to invest in differentiating technology. We need to continue to invest in local footprint and supply chain to make sure we can differentiate from competition and have a very reliable, high quality supply chain for our customers. We need to listen to them very, very well. That's the reason why we have put a lot of people on the ground here, local people that have a good interaction with the customer, that understand precisely what the customer needs. So in times of tough price environment, and India is a tough price market, you need to differentiate through value, through innovation and customer intimacy, and then you can still have a prospering business. You spoke about investing in R&D and the local capabilities. You already are operating in India. You have a plant for over 50 years in India. What's the plan of expansion at that plant? The kind of investments are you making? Are you putting in more money to put up some more organic growth drivers in India in terms of new plants?
What sort of investment capex are we talking about?
We are in India now since 100 years, in manufacturing since 50 years. We have more than 10,000 people here in India. We have more than 5,000 people in manufacturing, about 4,000 in engineering and in R&D. So we are a very significant at-scale industrial player here. What we will do in the next couple of years, we will continue to invest in the plants, in the capacity that we have there, either through capacity upgrades or new greenfield installations. Yesterday I inaugurated a new plant that provides capabilities and equipment for the industry, for the power industry. So that's a no-brainer. We will continue to do that. If you look, the second piece that we continue to invest in is the engineering and the R&D activity, not only on the product and hardware side, but also on the software side. ABB is offering globally, more than 50% of our offering is already software-based. A lot of that capability has been developed in India or together with India. So there's a dramatic opportunity for us to really tap the Indian talent pool even stronger now that it's so strongly established, to serve the local market better, but also serve the world better on the software and services side. So ABB will continue to invest in the next decade in a significant way. We are aiming to prosper and grow this business a significant way ahead of GDP, and you can rely on us as a very important investment partner, but also as an education partner. It's very clear when I met with the customers over the last couple of days, it's not only investments in brick and mortar, in factories that really matter. We need to invest in people. ABB has one of the lowest turnover rates in India. And why is that? Because we really take care of our people. We have good development and education programs. And I honestly believe that money builds you a nice factory. People build you the company. So what we need to do is we need to keep investing in the people of the future. We need to set up great training and capabilities, development capabilities, and then we will be a strongly differentiated, strong player here in India.
Any number that you've been talking about in terms of investments?
We have significant investment plans, and when they are ready to be announced, we're going to talk about it.
Quantifiable?
Absolutely, we have a quantifiable capex plan in the next years, and at the time when we are ready to disclose it, we will disclose it.
Fair enough. You also spoke about the Make in India policy that Prime Minister Narendra Modi has been talking about across the world in all his stores. You are already manufacturing here and exporting a lot from the Indian plants as well for your requirements across the world. Any plans of expanding or increasing the exports from the Indian plants now with your expansions in your plants in place?
ABB in India is really ready for the next stage of growth. And the next stage of growth locally, I already described. The next stage of growth internationally and for export is a very interesting one. If you look from a macro perspective, the free trade arrangements that India has, for example, with South Asia, positions India very strongly. We have built up a very good quality capabilities here in terms of manufacturing. We have good infrastructure on the port side and the export side here in India, which I really welcome. And I had yesterday meeting with some politicians that will invest even more in the export infrastructure. So given that, I have very high hopes and a very, very good feeling about increasing exports here from India. South Asia is one area. Africa is another area that we go. You might have seen we recently announced a reorganization for ABB. ABB will be in the future organized in 3 regions in the world. The Americas, Europe, and Asia, Middle East, Africa. The battle in Africa will be won in an axis between Asia, Middle East, and Africa. And we have organized the company now exactly that way. The Indian team will play a decisive and differentiating role to drive competitiveness when we develop Africa as a market for us. So for me, yes, we are ready, and we will take the export piece to the next stage of excellence in the next couple of years.
So could we say that you would be looking at building Indian manufacturing capabilities, sort of a manufacturing hub for ABB to service these markets?
We have been doing that since many decades, so we don't need to start it now. We are already on a really good path. But what we will do is, we will take that to the next stage. We will take the existing capacity and high quality output and invest continuously in that. We will develop markets outside of India and pull additional demand into these parts of the world. So I see a very steady, very strong growth coming. The overall macroeconomic conditions, if you look at the currency, if you look at the predictability of the economic system, I think India will become a much more predictable, reliable partner now under the new government for us, which we welcome to make long-term investment plans.
Right. Currently, how much of what's the percentage of exports from the Indian market? And let's say in the next 3 to 5 years' time, percentage-wise, how much growth do you anticipate?
Look, at the moment, we're on our way to export about a quarter. What we're doing in the future, this could be half or more if we are successful. So there is no limitation to that in terms of a market perspective. We need to make sure we do it under the same paradigm as we do every of our business. Before we run, we want to walk. We want to provide good quality, good technology, reliable commitments to our customers wherever we go. We need to make sure the setup of supply chains outside of India go in line with the ramp-up of manufacturing capacity here. And if we do this in a responsible way with ambitious plans to develop this market, I see a good growth in the ratio of export of ABB in India over the next decade.
And you say that from your meetings with the government, you've got a good sentimental push, at least, in the positive direction.
We got a very strong and good feeling that the government realizes the opportunity that this country has. The investments will go in the right areas. The port infrastructure, we had one discussion about. If I look at the power infrastructure, I look at the support. So altogether, this country is going in the right direction.
From the automation side and the industrial processes that you operate from that segment's perspective, what sort of opportunities do you see with the government's plans of coming up with smart cities, pushing investments in the railways? That's one area that they've been talking about, starting metro lines in most of the tier 2 cities in India. What sort of viable opportunities do you think open up for a company like ABB now?
Look, ABB serves the world in 3 sectors, in utilities, in industry, and in transport and infrastructure.
Right.
Now, if you look at India, the plan of building more than 100 smart cities, the plans to upgrade urban infrastructure, the plan to make public transport more accessible and available here is fantastic opportunity for us. 2 days ago, I was in Bangalore, and together with a customer in Bangalore, we took a test ride on a new metro line that we have really built together with the customer in a revolutionary technology, which is high efficiency and low loss, very, very safe technology to enable public transport there. So there is a fantastic opportunity. What we need in that context is we need predictable, reliable framing regulatory conditions. That the government sets a clear guideline. This is the way it will be, both on the overall country level, but then on the local level also, that we know exactly how the projects will come and how reliable they are. Second, we need to understand the demand that is in there and work jointly with our customers to develop these projects. We have many of our people working with customers on the urban infrastructure side today already for projects that will come in the next couple of years. We're already active there, and we have invested significantly to be a strong, capable local partner for the local governments. So for me, urbanization, public transport are great opportunities, given that we have a strong local footprint of R&D and manufacturing, that we got strong customer relationships, and we are in there for the long haul, so we're not coming in the last minute and try to shoot an order. We're coming in to develop long-term these projects. We are strongly positioned, and I look forward to support India in the journey to develop this country.
From the projects that have already been announced, especially in the railway side, from the dedicated freight corridor side and the smart city side, have you assessed what would be, in quantifiable terms, the opportunity that you could bid for? Whether it comes or not is obviously secondary, but in terms of what is the opportunity that you could bid for?
If you look at ABB's role in public transport, we have on the one hand, on the fixed infrastructure side, making sure there is power supply along railway lines, making sure there's reliable systems there. We have invested in that one very strongly, and I see a strong pickup in tendering activity. Just to make a very concrete example, if you go to the city of Bangalore, there are a couple of new metro lines coming in, and we are already working with the customers there to prepare there. As one of the competitors, that are bidding for that. If I look on the rolling stock side, it's very important that the next stage of public transport is one which is a high quality, high efficiency public transport. We have invested in local value add, be it on the traction propulsion systems for these locomotives and the public transport systems. With that, we are ideally positioned to support our customers there. I see a double-digit growth opportunity for our public transport business over many years to come.
The other bit of the pie that you spoke about was renewable energy, and when I was reading up, I realized globally also you've put a lot of thrust, and that is also one of the next growth drivers that you're talking about. What sort of opportunities and what sort of push do you think is available in a market like India when we talk about renewables? Because especially from the policy side, if we look, there is very little that has been done to touch this piece of power.
I would like to give you an answer in three buckets. I want to talk about solar, wind and hydro. On the solar
side... That is my next question. Which would be your bet of the three?
It's basically a mix of all three, depending on the condition. If you look on the solar side, ABB has invested in the last 5-6 years very, very significantly globally. We have invested more than $1 billion to expand our solar capabilities. And today, between the panel and the grid, ABB has the best offering globally. We don't do the panel, we leave the customer to choice whatever panel he chooses. But when he has decided on the panel, between the panel and the grid, whether it's the inverter, the medium voltage, the low voltage technology, whether it's tracker technology, ABB is the strongest player with the strongest offering in the solar field. So what we're doing in this field is we're working with solar developers. We're working with local governments. We are putting in pilot installations. On Tuesday night, I had dinner with a couple of customers that are active in that field. And they are all looking forward to a reliable, bankable partner that will be there for the long term, because in the solar industry, as you know, there have been a lot of players popping up and disappearing again. ABB is putting its full industrial mass, the size of a 150,000 people company, more than 40 billion turnover company, in full force behind the development and renewable side. We have clearly said we will drive ABB towards the renewable sector in a very dedicated, clear way. So that's the solar piece. If you go on the wind side, we have invested in 2010. I inaugurated a new wind generator plant, which basically allows us to build the biggest local wind turbines onshore, offshore here in this market. So ABB has been in this field since many years, and we are supporting our customers there. But it's not only about setting up a solar field or the wind towers. It's about connecting them and transmitting this power to the end consumer. And there are two challenges. The one is renewables means longer distance. You cannot build a solar farm in the middle of Mumbai. So you have to go outside and you have to transport it over many, many kilometers. We have invested in R&D very strongly. We recently came out with a new cable technology, 520 kV cable technology. And what does that basically do? When a competitor needs 2 cables and 2 trenches to transport solar power over 1,000 kilometers from a large solar field to a main city, we only need 1. So 50% less permits, 50% less digging through innovative technology from ABB. And we are very strongly positioned in that field to support. Whether the generation capacity is solar, whether it's wind or hydro, doesn't matter. We got the transmission innovative technology to get that going. If you look on the hydro side, there's still some hydro projects coming. We have a proven track record here for high voltage, long distance power transmission. In fact, they are out of the projects that were done in India, in more than 2/3 of them, ABB has been the key partner and the reliable technology provider, and we will continue doing that in the future. So for me, the renewable space in India, the government commitment that I'm sensing to add additional capacity on the solar side, on the wind side, on the hydro side, is a fantastic opportunity for the country to have a more sustainable, environmentally friendly power generation. And it's a good opportunity for us as well.
What's the kind of additional capacity that the government is talking about, and how much of that do you think would be addressable by a company like ABB?
If you take the 150 gigawatt additional power generation capacity that will establish over the next year. A significant part of that one will be renewables. There's a discussion whether it's 20, 30, 40%, but it's a significant amount. That's a fantastic growth opportunity for us. We are today on the solar side clearly the number one here in India. And we will continue to invest in local value added, in local people, in local engineering to keep that growth going. So altogether, I'm highly optimistic about the renewable field, and I see from the new government some clear actions in the right direction.
Overall, if we talk about the power space for ABB in India and the growth that you're anticipating, let's say out of 100, in the next 5 years, how much do you think would come from renewables?
I would say that more than a third comes from the renewable space. If you look at our transmission and distribution activities, which is the main focus of ABB, for us, we are generation agnostic. Whether we connect a coal plant, a solar plant, a wind plant, we can do it all, and we prosper with that, independent what kind of capacity you put in. In the renewables field especially, we can play a very strong role with our customers setting up the generation capacity as well. So the overall power demand is going up, the overall power infrastructure demands are going up, renewable takes a higher share than in the past. That's all good for ABB.
Right. We've spoken about all the three businesses and the upcoming businesses. You've said there's a lot of optimism. Order pickup could happen in 24 to 36 months' time. Revenue growth could be more than 4 to 7% globally that you're talking about. How about the margins that have been under pressure? Obviously, we understand that's also because the order inflows were not coming in. Execution obviously was suffering because of that. Yeah. Going forward, what sort of margins do you think you would be working on in the Indian market?
It is our ambition globally and locally to drive margin accretion over the next years. And how will we get there? On the one hand, on the pricing side, if we got fantastic value coming out of our product, you get fairly paid by your customers. Many customers that I meet globally, but also here locally, are ready to pay a good price if you provide the right value. Reliability. If you set up infrastructure projects, you want to have a high level of reliability. If you put up automation capacity and automation investments, our customers really need a quantum leap in quality, in productivity, in automation, in industry to be competitive, and customers are ready to pay for it. So that value piece is clear. And on the secondly is we need to continue taking costs out. We have a great development of the Indian supply base. We have fantastic supply chain partners here in India that we have now developed over many years, and we will continue working with them to jointly and collaboratively improve efficiency on the supply chain side to take further costs out. So between good value-added top-line growth and good technology and very strong execution focus, I'm optimistic that when the market picks up, margins will pick up as well. So
11 to 16% EBITDA is what you've been targeting globally for your business in the next 5 years. I think this is 2015 to 2020 target that you're talking about. Where could India be?
I don't give a detailed forward-looking statement on that one, but it's very clear that India, ABB in India, we have gone through different phases. The first phase was we were a pure import company where we imported product. That was in the first half of the last century. In the second half of the last century, we set up a very strong local manufacturing. Right. And when you do that, you start to have stronger local margin than just an import and commission margin when you do like a wholesale business. So we have grown the margin there. Then we have started to have strong local R&D and development. So we have fully localized the value chain. The margin has taken another step. And if you look at the margin drivers going forward, we have now industrial business at scale in India, which gives one opportunity for margin accretion. Second, we will drive more volume through export and really get it going. Third, we will drive the continuous execution to another level. So altogether, I'm optimistic that ABB India will contribute to the margin accretion that we have planned.
And it would be in line with that 11 to 16% that you're globally targeting?
The margin accretion that we have planned in the next years, ABB India will play its role in that one as well.
All right, you're playing safe on that front. But if we talk about the stock, you're a listed entity in India. In the capital goods space, most of the multinationals who are trading in the Indian stock market, stock prices are really quite high. You're quite overvalued is what we understand when we look at the stock charts and the performance. And which is where the question always comes in. You're already at 75% shareholding in the Indian entity. Would there be a thought process to eventually go in for delisting?
First, when I look at the current share price, I think the current share price reflects the opportunities that people see ABB to have here in this country. We have a very, very good future, and the share price is always a combination of future expectations and current performance. Current performance operationally is strong, the future expectations are high, that drives the share price up. Secondly, we are focusing fully at the moment on running the business and driving operational performance. And when the time is right to consider any changes in the shareholding structure, we will talk about it. At the moment, the focus is fully on operational improvement and serving the country in its profitable growth.
The question obviously comes in considering the fact that you're going through a $4 billion buyback for your parent company, and if there was eventually a plan to get India also on that part.
Look, as a leader of a large industrial portfolio like ABB, you have the duty to continuously look at your portfolio. When I took office last year, the first step that I took is we did a portfolio pruning. We looked at the overall industrial portfolio of ABB and we said there are certain parts which don't belong in the family. So to have a good and prospering apple tree growing, you need to prune and cut it in certain areas now and then, and that's what we have done in the last 12 months. The second part, if you look at ABB, we are a highly cash generative company. So this is a very, very healthy global company. We generate a lot of cash, and then you need to think about what do I do with this cash. The first priority is we invest in organic growth, globally and locally. You will continue seeing us making the investments that are needed to drive India's prosperity, ABB India's prosperity. Secondly, we need to make sure we honor our dividend policy. And we got a very sustainable, long-term oriented, attractive yield dividend for our shareholders. Third, we will do acquisitions, and fourth, additional returns to the shareholders. On the acquisition side, we have bought more than 30 companies the last 6 years. We are in full swing in integrating some of them, the large one, Thomas & Betts in the US, Power One in solar. The integration is really going forward very well, but we are not done yet. So I did not want to overload the team by doing yet more acquisitions. We said, let's return some money to the shareholders, because at the moment we want to take a pause in large acquisitions. We have one of the divisions, the Power Systems division, is in a turnaround situation. So with that and the ongoing integration of the other large acquisitions, we felt it was the right time to invest in a share or give money back to the shareholders. And that's what we do on an annual basis. You will see us acting responsibly with the cash that we generate for our shareholders.
So delisting is not on the cards as of now. Should shareholders look for some dividends?
At the moment, we have no plans for any changes in the shareholder structure. At the moment, the focus is on operational improvement and operational growth of this business.
So should shareholders be looking ahead for some dividends coming in the next quarters?
If you look at ABB is a great company that is very strong positioned in the attractive parts of the Indian market. So we will be prospering in the future, and we will be a good investment for our shareholders.
Fair enough. If we talk about your markets globally, Americas, Europe, and Middle East, Africa, and Asia that you've spoken about, and this is how you've demarcated. Have you seen the economy pick up as far as the developed markets are concerned, and are you seeing globally order pickup happening, the industrial capex returning back?
ABB acts at the moment in a pretty uncertain world. We don't know yet exactly where Europe is going and where it's coming up. In the US, we see some strong signals, but the economic numbers are not in full swing yet. So we need to be cautious in running this company. We need to manage our costs for the worst and the growth for the best. That's the way how we have set ourselves up. We will continue to drive our efficiency programs on cost and capital side with full force. There's no need yet to relax on that. We will never relax on that. On the other hand, there are good pockets of growth everywhere around the world. In our next level strategy, we have done a lot of homework to identify where are the pockets of growth by a segment, by a country perspective all around the world. And there is no region in the world where there are no opportunities to grow. So what we need to do in times of high volatility and economic uncertainty, we need to be more focused. We need to prioritize very well what we are going for. I can tell you in Europe, Investing in automation to drive competitiveness, to basically bounce off the impact of very high energy prices is a good opportunity for us. If we look at the US, participating in the reindustrialization of the US through our automation activities is a wonderful opportunity, and we have a very rich tender pipeline and good order pickup coming there. And if we look at the last quarter, ABB has managed to grow in power and in automation in all regions of the world. And how do we do that? We have refocused the company in the last quarters on profitable organic growth. We have done our homework on the pockets of growth opportunities. We have reallocated our resources in line with that. We're investing there, whether it's in penetration on the sales side, whether it's on innovation, bringing leading-edge products to serve certain customer segments better, or whether it's on expansion, entering segments that we are traditionally not that strong. If we do this right, we will beat the market in terms of organic growth, and that's the ambition that I have for the company.
When we talk about the emerging market space, doesn't the recent volatility in the last 1 or 2 years that we've seen in terms of currency bother you when you plan your large-scale expansions in these markets?
ABB has a policy where we are acting very locally. So when you are locally active, the currency impact doesn't hit you that much. Because if you have a fully established local value chain, you don't suffer as if you would be importing into this market. Take India. More than 3/4 of our products that we have globally are fully localized in India. We have the local cost, we have the local supply chain, we have the local sourcing. So whether the rupee goes up or down for that part of the supply chain, it's not that relevant. Now what is important as a responsible leader is, if you have this swing, it's not only downside, but there are also opportunities. The devaluation of the rupee over the last couple of quarters is an opportunity for us to export even stronger from India and take the benefit out of that one. And we are acting in that way.
A lot of sluggish growth in the last couple of quarters, margins were thinning. Was cost cutting and pruning the businesses that you spoke about helped you actually sustain and go through, or were there other strategies, and what were the other strategies that helped you sustain through this difficult 2 to 3 years in the last quarter?
If you look at our strategy, it's built around 3 pillars: profitable growth, relentless execution, and business-led collaboration. And let me tell you what this means. On the execution side, ABB is a cost-cut machine. In 2008, when Lehman hit the world and we had the start of the financial crisis, we did not go out with a lawnmower approach in cost-cutting. We set up a very responsible cost-cutting approach that allows us to take $1 billion costs out every year. And we are really well on track this year also to take more than $1 billion out one more year since 2008. So this is a really strong pattern of ABB, and you can count on us. We will deliver this in the future. We have made a clear commitment over the next strategy period until 2020. We will continue to take out 3 to 5% equivalent of cost of sales every year again. We're expanding the focus. We're looking more at the white-collar productivity side, on the 100,000 people that we have in white-collar jobs in sales and marketing and R&D. There are tremendous opportunities for us to become more efficient there. If you look on the growth side, the way we have been able to beat the market on growth, I laid that out before: identification of the high growth pockets, refocusing of the activities in that field, and that allows you to drive the margin. So if you look all together, the margin development in ABB in 4 of our 5 businesses has been extremely steady. We have been holding the line. The fact that we have in one business, which is dragging the corporate margin down in Power Systems, an issue has to do with one market segment, the offshore wind and the solar segment, the way we got into that with large EPC projects, that has nothing to do with the performance of the other 4 divisions.
Pruning businesses, cutting costs, if I'm not wrong, you've already done some savings of about $1 billion, if I'm not mistaken, that's right. What are you looking at your next targets in terms of cost savings, let's say in the next 1 or 2 years' time?
We will continue to take $1 billion or more out every year. That's about 3 to 5% cost of sales equivalent that I've laid out before. So you will see ABB continuously and steadily driving the cost reduction efforts. We have a good cost reduction machine put in place. We got more than 5,000 operational excellence projects going on around the world. We have more than 3,000 people on the strategic sourcing side, on commodity teams, working together with our suppliers, linking R&D and supply chain stronger to sustainably take cost out through smarter design and design for cost out. So I'm very optimistic in the future that ABB will continue that momentum in cost reduction.
1.5 years as the CEO for ABB. You've already laid out your plan. How does the next few years look like as the CEO at the helm of ABB?
First of all, the first 15 months as the CEO of this company was a wonderful experience. The team has come together very strongly, and don't forget, it's never the CEO only that runs the company. It's a strong team, and we have come together. We have made some changes. We have put in a new strategy. We know exactly where we go in the next couple of years. So the first phase was around charting the course, setting the course where we're going, giving the company a clear identity, and accelerating the momentum. That were the three topics that we worked on in the first 15 months. Now that we have the clear course, we have accelerated the momentum, and we know where we are going, there is a lot of fun, professional fun coming in prospering this company and working together with our customers and the teams.
Dr. Spiesshofer, we wish you a lot of luck so that you have a lot of fun at ABB in the coming years and the business prospers under you. Thanks a lot for speaking with CNBC TV 18.
Thank you very much, Arisha. I really enjoyed it. Thank you.
Thank you.